All right, perfect. So yeah, once again, thank you for attending our info session this morning here in California for the EECS Master of Engineering program. Um, this was a very competitive application cycle. We had roughly 2,700, over 2,700 applicants, and so to be admitted into this program is quite prestigious, and we hope to see you in the fall. So going on to this next slide, I'd like to just go and start with introductions to our team. And so, Sanjeet, do you want to just give a quick shout out to our admits, and then we can just go left to right.
Sounds good. Thank you, Michael. I'm Sanjit Seshia. I'm a professor of EECS and currently vice chair for master's programs. And I want to start out by congratulating all of you that you've been admitted to the Masters of Engineering in EECS. As Michael says, this is a very competitive program in any year, and this year was especially competitive. So congratulations to you all. I'll turn it over to my fellow vice chair, Professor Alvin Chung.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So as Sanjit mentioned, I'm also a faculty member at Berkeley. Congratulations again on your admissions, and we hope to see you here in the fall.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Michael Sun. I am the EECS Masters Program Advisor, and so the MEng program falls under my purview. I work with Tiffany here, and I've been in the department for about 8 years, and so I've seen quite a few students come through this program. It's gotten more competitive every year. This is a great uh, way to get access to our graduate programs, and I think this is a wonderful program, so I hope to see you in the fall.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Tiffany Sun. I'm your other master's program advisor. Again, congratulations. Happy to see you all here attending our virtual visit day and hope to see you in the fall.
Alrighty, so on to the next slide. Um, I'll start with a couple of announcements. And so, you all should have gotten the departmental notification, with your admissions to this program. And the statement of intent to register deadline is May 1st. But if you need more time to make a decision, just let us know. Um, and then we're planning on announcing and beginning our notification of recipients for the Fung Merit and Opportunity Fellowships beginning next Monday. Roughly 30% of our admits receive some sort of financial support. And so we'll begin notifying recipients for those fellowships starting next week. Um, that is to say, if you were not selected, you can still apply for a grant through this link on the slide. And so, don't be discouraged by that, and we still hope to see you in the fall. All right. So I can go over this really quick. If Alvin and Sanjeet at any point you want to jump in and elaborate, by all means feel free to do so. So the EECS Master of Engineering program, um, basically there's three major components to this program. The degree requirements include 25 units of coursework, split up between the core leadership curriculum, your technical specialty, and then your capstone project. So the leadership breadth units are handled by our partnership with the Fung Institute, and those classes consist of core leadership curriculum that basically allow you to gain management, leadership, and communication skills that will then help translate and transition you into industry. Um, the second piece would be the capstone experience. So the team capstone project, it usually addresses a industry challenge, and it's in teams of 3 to 6 students, where you'll be working with closely with a faculty liaison, um, you know, basically to work on to tackle a project over the course of a year. Some of these projects may be building upon, prior students' work. Students, some of these are running projects, and so, EECS offers quite a few from amongst our faculty, but you'll also have the chance to choose from, industry partnerships as well. Lastly, and I think the meat of this program is the technical specialty, and so that means access to our graduate level coursework within the EECS department. And so MEng students are required to take four technical electives, and that's split between the 2 semesters, so 2 and 2 each semester, and you'll usually end up with between 12 to 16 units for that. Okay. So, like I just mentioned, this kind of is a bullet point. Um, the, 4 courses of technical electives, the business and leadership courses that are your leadership breadth units, and then um, you've got 2 units of boot camp that is prior to each semester, both in the fall and the spring. You've got some comms courses that align with kind of your team capstone projects. Working on deliverables, setting some benchmarks and whatnot. And then the capstone projects themselves are represented by 5 units of research, which are in the form of Engine 296 MA and MB. So this is kind of like a visual to help you visualize the breakdown of the semesters of this program. Um, I think it's pretty straightforward, so I won't go over it too much in detail again because I just mentioned all of this stuff. But yeah, so 2 technical electives per semester, along with your research and leadership components. Alvin and Sanjeet, do you have anything to add?
Not really. I think as all of you know, within ECS we have 6 area concentrations, and so each of you have been admitted into one of those concentrations that you applied to. So your technical coursework is expected to be aligned with that choice, and that's what this first bullet here refers to. So 2 of your courses should be from the core list for that area of concentration. And so core list is a subset of the courses. And then 3 should be from that concentration entirely.
Thanks, Sanjeet. Yeah, so building upon what he mentioned, out of the 4 courses, those 2 prior bullets, 2 of them must be from the core list. 3 must be from or aligned with your concentration, and then finally, the last class you can take outside of your concentration, any MEng approved graduate course within EECS. Um, and so we have an overall GPA requirement of 3.0. And then additionally, there's a technical GPA requirement of 3.5. You can get access to the core and the aligned courses per area through our website, um, and that's available through this link on the slide. We'll be updating those lists as we know more about the upcoming year and course offerings. But it should give you a good sense of, what classes are available, and hopefully they excite you and you know, will pique your interest. So. Next, we'll move on and talk a little bit about the capstone selection process. And um, so there's basically the Fung Institute administers a capstone marketplace. And so students have an opportunity at the end of July to review a full list of all the capstone offerings for the upcoming year. And so uh, basically, you'll have a portal that's through the Fung Institute, and you'll be able to, review project proposals, and sometimes they'll come with video recordings of the descriptions and whatnot, to, help you kind of, figure out what your preferences are. Um, and uh, af After that, then you'll have the opportunity to, meet with the project advisors to learn more, um, during virtual capstone project advising office hours that are held in early August. After this step, what I believe happens, and Sanjeet and Alvin, you can correct me, but there's going to be rankings both from the team leaders and also the students, where they rank the projects and then they rank the preferences, and then it goes through this algorithm to basically match. And so teams consist typically of 3 to 6 students. And yeah, do you guys have anything to add?
Yeah, maybe just one thing. So you are all admitted to the EECS MEng program. And of course, in the capstone marketplace, there are going to be projects from offered from all the different areas. And of course, while it makes sense for in some cases for students from different engineering areas to work together, the expectation is that you'll be working on an EECS aligned project. So that's something to keep in mind as you go through the capstone matching process, that you are working on a project that really matches the EECS area as well as the concentration area that you're admitted into. Yeah, back to you, Michael.
Okay. All right. So before we tackle some of the stuff that's been put in the chat, these are some commonly asked questions. Uh, so I'll just go down the list, and then we can move on to Q&A and clarifying any of the materials or information that was covered in the materials earlier. So the first question is, how does technical course enrollment work? Will I be allowed to take undergraduate coursework within EECS? So we release course lists for each semester, respectively, in June, or not June, July and mid-October, for fall and spring. Um, these course lists have been meticulously vetted and reviewed for appropriateness, for MEng grad students, and additionally, um, like we mentioned earlier, we'll provide recommendations and required technical courses for each concentration. Um, EECS undergraduate classes are not included and are limited to our undergraduate student populations only. So, as a grad student, you will not be able to enroll into them. The second question, can I take additional technical coursework beyond the 2 required per semester? You certainly can. However, graduate coursework here at Berkeley is quite rigorous, and you'll also have your plate full with leadership coursework as well as capstone research. So, like I mentioned, I've been here for 8 years within this department and overseeing this program. Um, Inevitably, there are folks who end up oversubscribing, and they take up too much on their plate, and find out, later on, they're spread too thin, and that impacts, all of the work across the board. So, um, I would say at the very least in the fall, take a conservative approach and take the minimum of 2, just to get acclimated. And then in the spring, if you feel you can take on additional work, this is cautionary because capstone research also ramps up in the spring. You can consider that. What I would also do is highly recommend, instead of taking on additional workload, if you're interested in the content of the course, coordinate with the instructor and see if you can maybe audit the class so that you don't have the additional stress of having to, go through and do everything for credit, but still, learn the material or get access to the subject matter and whatnot. And so that's a good alternative. All right, so next question. Can I look for research opportunities outside of my capstone project and continue onto the PhD program? The EECS MEng program is designed as a terminal master's degree. So, what that means is not meant to serve as a stepping stone towards pursuing a PhD. I think the scope and also, kind of the research that you embark in a team environment that's offered through this capstone project component versus a, kind of more research oriented degree program is very different. And the MEng program is meant to help folks get, shore up and get more technical knowledge in a specific concentration and then transition into industry. So, um, with that being said, you have all this coursework, you have the capstone research. There's really not, I think, that much time to partake in additional research obligations, given the short length of the MEng program, and meeting your degree requirements essentially. Um, Alvin and Sanjeev, do you have anything to add to this?
No.
Okay. Yeah, so I think again the focus is the capstone projects and students find those projects align with their research interests and their career aspirations just fine. So yeah. Moving on to the next question. Will there be an opportunity for any third semester extensions? We don't have any plans to offer an extension option for the EECS program. This was an accommodation back during the pandemic, but the the scope and intent of this program was always within one academic year. And so, now that we're back to on ground, we're back to, the normal length and duration of the program. So it's a, 2 semester lockstep program. So, some important dates to just remember. May 1st is the deadline to accept the offer of admission. The third week of July is the phase one enrollment time for fall semester courses. August 11th through the 20th is the fall boot camp courses, and those are offered in person with some limited online options. But with the fall semester starting a week later, that's when classes begin. We do expect folks to be, in person attending classes by that point. And then mid-August, the exact date to be determined, but we'll, announce it, um, is our EECS new student orientation. And so, we'll have some more information then, particularly about, like the comprehensive exam, the technical comprehensive exam that is also part of this program, and some of the more details of completing your degree requirements.
Michael, I think there's a question on the chat asking about like the SIR deadline being April 14th versus May 1st.
Okay. Yeah. So, May 1st is the SRR deadline, despite what you may have been told earlier through like a Fung info session. So for EECS and MEng, it is May 1st, and the enrollment deposit deadline is also May 1st. Um, the offer letters that go out should reflect this. So if the right now graduate divisions is still in the midst of sending out the official offer letters. You should have all received the departmental notifications, but it should reflect that updated date for SIR. So, um, just to confirm that.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah. So there's some interesting student highlights, and also there's a few short videos with our current students on this YouTube link here. I think they're well worth the read if you're interested in seeing what some of our students and alumni have moved on to accomplish and pursue, go ahead and check out these stories. I think they're great reads. So that's just this slide here. So now I think we'll open the floor up to questions, and um, you guys can help me with the order, or just go ahead and ask them. But I guess I'll scroll up a bit and see where we'll start. So we covered the SIR deadline discrepancy, and then so
Yeah, there's a question about the technical courses, if you just want to go over that again really quickly about them being from your admitted area of concentration.
sure. So um, we'll provide a full list of the MEng approved courses per concentration through our website. And so you can go onto the link and on that slide, I think it was which slide was it? The slide here, and click this link, and it'll take you to our web pages that have the course offerings in detail per concentration. So, um, like we mentioned, there's basically two lists, right? There's a core list that are required courses that you need to pick two from, that align with your concentration. And then there's a larger list that is courses that we've identified, um, in the EECS department that are aligned with specific concentrations. And so three out of the four technical courses should be taken from these lists. The last one is more open-ended. So from the full list of MEng approved classes, course offerings, you can pick one outside of your concentration, within your concentration, the choice is yours. And so hopefully that clarifies that. Um, how do we find out which concentration we were admitted into? That should have been in your departmental notification. It states on the first sentence. If you aren't unsure, you can email us, and then we can confirm it with you. Let's see. Are people coming into these programs expected to be already very proficient in their technical depth, given that there's limited coursework on the technical end? Is there remedial coursework for non-engineering, non-CS grads to be up to speed by the time? Um, yeah, I mean, I think Sanjit, you answered it, pretty succinctly there. We reviewed your application materials for, you know, and deemed that you have sufficient background knowledge in order to be able to do well in our technical coursework. And so, if you have any questions, I guess perhaps you can email us or any concerns. I think,
Just to
yeah.
add to that, as I said in my response in the chat, we reviewed your applications very carefully, and that's where the concentration, area of concentration is relevant because you've been admitted to that concentration because the reviewers felt that your background was suitable for that in terms of preparation. This is also why we don't recommend and we don't allow switching between concentrations, right? Because if you're admitted to one concentration, probably it doesn't mean that you have the background for the other ones. And you may well struggle in those classes.
Thanks, Sanjit. And then, yeah, I think there's a two-part question that was, just answered. But the second part was, can we contact graduate student to make a capstone proposal, or do we have to choose from the list provided? Um, Alvin, you answered this, but yeah, I'll just reiterate. So there's going to be a whole capstone marketplace where there's going to be, like hundreds of proposals for projects, and so I think you'll have more than enough choices. and you should choose one of the projects from the provided list. They'll ask you for preferences. I think you give up to, I believe, 6 preferences, right? And then there's a matching process to align with everyone's preferences and rankings.
Maybe Michael, since some of these questions have already been answered on the chat, maybe we can
Sure.
filter the ones that have not been answered. Would that be more efficient use of time?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So yeah,
so
you go ahead and ask away because I'm just still catching up,
going down,
scrolling
right.
down, but then
So
I'll
yeah, so
try my
someone
best to
asked
answer.
about the statistics of how many students able to find jobs last year. I guess, do you have any statistics on placement?
Um, It's a very high percentage. I know that for a fact, but I think Fung Institute keeps the records through their professional development team, and Julie McShane is the person to contact for that. So what I'll do is I'll update the slides to have some contact information in order for you to reach out to them, or you can always email funginstitute@berkeley.edu, and that's their general inbox where you can ask that question too and get some of those uh uh get some of that data.
Mhm. Okay, and then the next question, where can we see the dates and times for the leadership courses between August 8th, 11th and the 20th?
So that should be published around the same time that we release the course offerings for fall. So um as an incoming graduate student, I believe your records are generated in early July. So I think July 1st is when your records become available and you get appointment time in our student system. And normally around that time is when information for fall classes becomes available. The Fung Institute handles the boot camp and leadership component, so they will be the folks to ask about information for the boot camp and what's offered online or what's in person, and so the sections and whatnot.
Okay, great, thanks. Next question, what's the target class size for the for each MH program?
You mean is the cohort size?
Yeah, I suppose
Uh,
around 100
yeah,
people.
I'd say about 100, 110 is what we're aiming for. Um, it just kind of depends on um, a number of factors, I guess. Uh, but yeah, that's the cohort size that we're aiming for.
Mhm. And then what is the percentage of internationals who joined the program, I guess?
So from our applicant pool, historically we've had roughly, around 70% international applicants. And that kind of translates into, our admitted student, um, and then ends up in, as our representing our cohort too. So, I'd say roughly the breakdown's been like 60/40, 60% international, 40%, um, you know, domestic. But, to kind of like clarify on that, a lot of the international students have attended U.S. institutions for their undergrad. So, they've been here and you're, kind of familiar with how the system works here. Um, but, we're looking for folks from all different walks of life, different backgrounds. And so that's why it's so important to have international students as well as, a good mix of domestic students from all over the country.
Okay, great. Next question is about I-20. So how do we request I-20? Will this be processed only after acceptance notification from the department, or can we be started right away?
I think that's a question for the Berkeley International Office. I'm not qualified to answer that question on when they actually begin the process. I believe, it probably makes the most sense if you've committed to the program, and then they'll start initiating that. But you can pose that question to the Berkeley International Office.
Mhm. Okay. And then can we say something about the comprehensive exam for the leadership course?
So there's two different exams that are part of your degree requirements for this program. Um, one is related to the leadership coursework that you're taking, during the year. And then the other piece would be related to your capstone research project. And so, um, they basically, I can speak more about the technical comprehensive exam because that's under the purview of the departments. The leadership comprehensive exam is through the Fung Institute. So, going back to the technical comprehensive exam, it's basically, a technical presentation that covers the work that you've done over the course of the year related to your capstone project. And then at the end, the committee that is being presented to will have some cross-examination to determine, what your individual contributions were, test you on some of the knowledge, and then make a determination on whether or not people, pass or fail. Alvin and Sanji, you guys can feel free to, chime in on that piece, because you both, have had project teams in the past. But yeah.
Yeah, so it's basically as Michael said, so the technical component of the exam is a presentation, and it's usually to the capstone advisor and also another faculty member sometimes. So that's pretty much the requirement. And yeah, so it's basically making sure that people are like kind of putting their weight during the semesters and showing off what you guys have done during the school year.
Yeah, and none of it should really be like, come as a surprise. There's regular check-ins, obviously, throughout the year with your team. There's deliverables that, are also kind of reiterated through the leadership coursework that you're taking in tandem. Um, and then, I guess there's also a mention of like, is there a report or whatnot? Yeah, this is, all gonna culminate in like a master's report too. And so, it'll detail your individual contributions, your team contributions, and it's there's all of that. So, okay.
Great. Someone was asking a follow-up question on another thing. So can they finish the undergrad degree in the summer before joining the MH program in the fall?
Uh, I believe that is permitted. That's something that you can confirm with the admissions unit at the graduate divisions. But I think that's fine. They basically will do a check to see if you've completed all your degree requirements and you have your, degree conferral by the time you start by the time this program starts. So, I mean, depending on when your summer term ends, you might want to double check that, and see and make sure that it doesn't, conflict with when this program starts, then it should be fine.
Okay. And then someone asked, would you recommend going to the visit day tomorrow if we are able?
I think there's some cool events. So if you go to the Fung page for, their in-person visit day, there's a lot of like, kind of events in person. Um, but we are aware that not everyone is, in close proximity to Berkeley at the moment. Um, but if you have the opportunity, why not? I think it's a great way to, uh, you know, get exposed to the campus if you haven't, had a chance. I know there's, part of that, events of tomorrow, there's like a campus tour. And then, meet some of the staff at Fung, meet some of your cohort as well, right? That's a great way to meet other folks, and just, network, before you get here.
Mhm. And we're still getting questions about like the concentrations, where they can find that. I suppose it should be in the admissions letter, right?
Y yeah, like the admitted concentration, correct.
Right. Um, okay.
So I did me notice that there is someone's sharing, you know, I guess Discord, WhatsApp links. So those are unofficial. I just want to put that out there. Like that's fine if you guys are doing that. But we're not endorsing those links at all. I think a good way to meet other MN students, is through the Fung Institute's portals. They will be sending out additional information to get in touch with your classmates and whatnot. Um, okay, so yeah, the moving on. Let's see. There's a question about deferrals. Um, and so yeah, that's a case by case basis. If you have unforeseen circumstances, let us know sooner than later because there is a deadline for a deferral request. I believe last year was June 1st, right? Judy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was June 1st. So, um, you know, prior to that, if you are encountering some unforeseen issues that will affect your attendance for next year, reach out to us. And so, yeah, again, I'll add a slide for some contact information for both the Fung Institute and for the EECS department for these, kind of related inquiries.
Maybe we should add like bio as well, in case people have like visa questions.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thanks.
So someone asked, given that this is only a 1 year program, how do students recruit in tech without summer internships? I can take part of that. So we do have a lots of campus recruiting events that actually happen in both the fall and spring semesters, and students in MEng definitely take advantage of that. So it depends on what kind of job you're looking for, but we do have quite high placement rates in terms of students ending up finding a full-time job right after graduating from the program. Not sure if Michael or Sandra, you guys have other things you want to add to that?
Um, yeah, I mean, Fung also runs a lot of events. Again, I mentioned Julie. She's in charge of career and professional development, and so um, yeah, in addition to just like the campus and also departmental kind of events that are offered throughout the year, Fung also has dedicated resources to this. Um, so there's probably going to be more information that's released about that stuff. But again, we'll add a slide to this presentation to include those contacts so that you can find out more about that.
Mhm.
And the last thing I'll mention about that is uh, the capstone design projects and the course projects that you do will expose you and to contacts and both your in terms of your mentors as well as other people that you might work with. And in past years, I've known MN students land a job based on what they've done in their capstone project or even in projects they do in their classes in the fall semester. So to keep that in mind, I think these are all opportunities for you to showcase your skills and expertise and impress prospective employers.
Yep. Okay. Um, all right, scrolling through this.
I think we have addressed all the questions so far, but yeah, there are new ones coming in.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean there's a lot of questions about the technical electives, what's open, what can I take? That'll all be reflected through the web page, through our website and we're currently finding out more about, the course offerings for this upcoming year, and we'll be updating it. Um, and that'll be a basically like a living thing on our website. So, we'll be in constant communication and being as transparent as possible up until July when we release that course list for fall, so that you can, preemptively kind of take a look at the year's schedule and then plan accordingly. So yeah, don't be worried about that. Um, okay, so then any other questions? I see quite a few about deferrals. Again, so this year we have about 6 students coming back that we granted deferrals for last year. So it does happen. They are granted, but like what was mentioned, these are, for pretty extenuating circumstances. If you have, say, a job offer, and you want to defer, uh, unfortunately, that's not going to be granted. So I would just want to put that out there now. But um, for basically reasons outside of your control, we will definitely, consider it and work with you on those on a case by case basis. So
Right. And so this is indeed a full-time on-campus program. So we do expect folks to be here on campus. And it's also a full-time program. So like, we don't expect folks to be like doing part-time jobs or like having other jobs going on at the same time. So yeah. So that's why we also designed this to be relatively short. So it's only 1 year so that people can indeed like, finish and actually move on with their career.
yeah, great point, Alvin. And just to further, iterate the um, you know, we do get from time to time requests for like CPT, which is basically, the like if you find a part-time job and you want to work a part-time job as an international student, we don't approve those over the course of the year for the MEng program. We want folks to be fully committed to the classes, to their research obligations, and so we're not going to approve any CPT requests for that. Um, okay, so I got a new question. Could I ask how you recommend balancing courses from my concentration and outside of it? For example, 2+2, 3+1, or four. I mean, it really depends on your interests, right? Within whether or not they all align within your admitted concentration, or increasingly there's folks who have kind of interdisciplinary interests, and so that's why we have kind of some flexibility within the EECS MEng program compared to, say, other departments who kind of just give you a prefix menu, right? But that's really for you to decide. Um, as long as you're within alignment, or within compliance, which is, 2 core classes throughout the year, 3 within your concentration. The fourth one you can take, outside of your concentration as long as it's an MEng approved course. And whether or not, that's, something that you're interested in, or something that's within or outside your concentration, that's up to you.
Let me just add one thing to that. So it's, since you're admitted to a concentration, I would again recommend that when you pick your capstone project, you think carefully about picking projects, rating projects more highly that align with your concentration and with EECS. And you'll see that capstone projects are proposed by a range of people, both EECS faculty as well as non-EECS faculty from the College of Engineering, and also people who are outside the department, right? And the ones that are proposed by EECS faculty, you can they're well aligned with EECS, and probably there'll be a sufficient number of projects there that also align with your concentration. So think about that when you're picking your capstone project, because I think the successful MN students in my experience are ones whose coursework and their capstone project and everything is well aligned, so that they're actually, everything is synergistic. The courses help them work in their project and vice versa. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're picking courses and also picking projects. And the related aspect is you can think of your capstone project mentors as mentors who can also guide you with which classes to take that would be aligned with your projects, right? So some of these questions that you're asking us right now about, should I take 2+2 or 3+1, or that might be different for different people depending on your capstone project, and your project mentors will be good people to help you with that. Okay, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, I mean, your classes should align with your, research and academic interests. And so, yeah, thank you, Sanjeet, for that reminder. Okay. Um,
The new question about uh, capstone marketplace. It says it has 225 projects. Is that usually how many there are, or is that a subset of the total number?
I don't know if that's the final number. I don't think it is because, I'm sure there's going to be more projects that kind of trickle in before the final list is published in July, made available to students. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's usually, a couple hundred projects at least, and then so each department has faculty who propose projects, and to Sanjeet's point, I think those projects, offered by our own faculty, probably align best with your concentrations and your research interests. But there's also core was it industry partnerships that offer projects as well. Um, and so yeah, the marketplace includes everything. So there's also other departments who might be looking for EECS MN students to staff their projects because they bring, a certain level of expertise that's necessary. Um, and yeah, so there's yeah. Okay. Uh, so maybe, a couple more minutes to see if there's any additional questions that haven't been already addressed. And then we'll wrap it up and I'll share the recording after it's available. And yeah,
Do we pick classes first or our project first?
it would be classes first. Enrollment times for fall are usually like the third week of July. And so you'll be, basically picking classes that align with your area in anticipation of the capstone project assignment. And that occurs throughout July and August. I believe it's finalized in late August, early September, I think, capstone teams.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. And then after that, there's also the matching process. So that matching process also take a little bit of time. So it usually finalizes the matching after the semester has already started. Right.
Great. So, okay. I'll take a minute to take on any other questions. And sorry, I didn't formally introduce Judy that she came in afterwards, but Judy's our director of student affairs in EECS, and so she serves as backup for Tiffany and I if you ever have any trouble getting a hold of us. Hopefully not, but Judy is is you know is great. So yeah, did you want to introduce yourself, say hi, or it's up to you?
Yes, hi, thank you. Hi, I'm Judy Smithson. I'm the Director of Student Affairs here in EECS, and I just wanted to say congratulations and welcome. Hopefully, we can see you in the fall.
Thanks, and sorry for taking so long to. Yeah, I should have done that earlier. But okay. So last question: how flexible is the boot camp to be online? I'm an internship until August 25th. Thanks. So I believe on the slide that I mentioned, August 26th is the first day of classes. So, I don't know. You might need to talk to your internship because that sounds like, I mean, we expect people to be here in person for the in-person classes. Um, there are options for the boot camp, online sections or whatnot. So you would want to reach out to Fung to see if, any accommodations can be made for that. But for all intents and purposes, we do expect people to be here in person. So, okay. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for taking time out of their busy schedules to attend this meeting in person. And for those who couldn't make it today, hopefully when you're reviewing this recording, we'll have answered your questions. But if not, feel free to reach out to us. I'll include again a slide with some contact information and additional resources. And then thank you to our vice chairs and to Judy and Tiffany. Um, and yeah, we hope to see you in the fall. And once again, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Hope to see you in the fall.
Yeah, likewise. Good meeting all of you online.